Six Flags is one of the largest operators of theme parks in the world. They currently operate 15 amusement parks, with 13 in the United States, one in Mexico, and one in Canada. And I've had the pleasure of making it out to 14 of the 15 Six Flags parks. Only one I'm missing is Six Flags Mexico. So in this video, what I'm going to do is rank all 14 of these Six Flags parks. Six Flags kind of gets a lot of crap from people for being like the discount chain or not having great parks, but I completely disagree with that. I think you can have fun at almost every single Six Flags park, and some of the top ones of the chains are some of the best parks in North America. There are duds, there are bad parks, and we'll talk about those, but Six Flags has a lot of great parks, so in this video I'm going to rank them. Something to keep in mind is that roller coasters, while they are very important, is when I'm talking about how good a park is, they're not number one. I kind of take the overall experience and how much fun I have into account, which is going to lead to some controversial placements. If you're a diehard coaster enthusiast and the only thing you care about is coasters, you're going to really disagree with a lot of this list, but this is my opinion. It's very subjective. Parks are hard to rank, so let's get into the list. Coming in last place, we have the only Six Flags park in my home country of Canada, La Ronde. This is a park that could be really good on paper, but it's operated very poorly. The coaster lineup here is actually pretty solid. You have a good top two with Goliath, which, while it is one of the weakest B&M hypers, is still a really fun ride that provides us some great floater airtime, and Vampire, which is the strongest of the Batman clones. But after that, the lineup does thin out a little bit. They have a Vekoma Boomerang, which is one of the smoother boomerangs. It's actually not that bad, but the rest of the rides aren't that great. They have the SLC that's really rough. They have a really crappy wooden roller coaster. Main problem with La Ronde, though, is the operations here. You're getting 5 to 10 minute dispatches on most of the roller coasters, lots of them running one train, and it will ruin your day. It's impossible to really have a good time here without Fast Pass, and even so, it's just not that great of a park. You should visit it for maybe to get on Goliath, but as an overall theme park, La Ronde is not great, and it definitely falls at the bottom of the Six Flags rankings for me. At number 13, we have a really controversial pick, but this is Six Flags over Texas. I just didn't have a good time here. On paper, this park is fantastic. They have a really good coaster lineup. New Texas Giant, it was the first RMC, and it still holds up today as a phenomenal roller coaster, even if it's not as good as some of the newer RMCs. Then beyond that, they have a Batman clone. Those are great, intense B&M inverts. Mr. Freeze is an awesome premier launch coaster. Titan is an underrated and fun hypercoaster with 2 bone-crushing helixes. And then they have a good lineup of family coasters. They have a Schwarzkopf looper called Shockwave, which is really intense. The coasters here are great, and the park looks fairly nice. This has the same problem as La Ronde, though. Operations. Running one train on most of the roller coasters, and the dispatches here are even worse than they are at La Ronde. These are probably the worst operations I've ever seen at a park. There were times when New Texas Giant was taking 12 minutes to dispatch. And when you're running one train at a park that gets as busy as Six Flags Over Texas, that's just not good. So this park, if it was managed better, would be close to the top of the Six Flags parks. And I really hope that when I do go back, it has improved. And I have heard that the park has improved, but no, this is not a great park. Only reason I have it over La Ronde is because of the strong ride lineup. Number 12, we have Frontier City. This is the only Six Flags parks that really feels like a theme park and not an amusement park. It has this general great Western theme, and it's very, very nice to just walk around, look at all like the Western buildings, and it's nice. This was only recently acquired by Six Flags a few years ago, so I think that's why it feels so different, and it also doesn't use the Six Flags name. What brings Frontier City back a little bit, though, is the ride collection. This probably is the weakest coaster lineup of the Six Flags parks. The best coaster here is Silver Bullet, which is a fun Schwarzkopf looper. You pull some really good G's on the vertical loop. There are good laterals through the rest of the ride. And also have Diamondback, which is an aero shuttle loop, which these are rare roller coasters, and it's fun to get the ejector airtime down the drops, especially going backwards, and the loop is forceful. But besides that, they don't really have much in the way that will attract coaster enthusiasts. And also this park is in Oklahoma City in kind of the middle of nowhere, far away from everything else. So that's why it's coming in towards the bottom. But if you're going from like Six Flags over Texas to Silver Dollar City and you want somewhere to stop, I'd recommend it. It's a really nice little park. 11 is the Great Escape. This is a park in New York, and this is a small park that is held back by its roller coaster lineup, even though it is a very pretty park. What brings this above Frontier City is that it has Comet, which is one of the greatest wooden roller coasters in America, if not the entire world. Very smooth, and it's an injector airtime machine. But besides that, there isn't really too much that stands out in the ride department. You have a Vekoma Boomerang, which is very smooth, but the rest really isn't much. This is a park that caters more to families. They have a lot more family rides, and it's just a cool place to walk around. It's very heavily wooded. It's pretty. It doesn't feel like a Six Flags park at all, but it's just not. It doesn't have the roller coaster lineup to push it higher into the list. Still a place you should definitely check out, though, just for Comet. Comet alone makes the trip worth it. That's one of my favorite roller coasters. Number 10, we have Six Flags Darien Lake. This is the nearest Six Flags park to me. It's located in Darien, New York, just over the Canadian border. And it's a fun little place, although it's not really anything special. The best roller coaster here is the Intamin Hypercoaster Ride of Steel. And this is the better of the two Ride of Steel clones. It is the normal T-bars, not the ones that kind of have the sidebars on them. So it's a more comfortable ride, and it's in a better location going over the water. They also have Tantrum, a fun but very short Gristlar Eurofighter, and they have Viper, which is a pretty smooth aero looper actually, and the Batwing on it is really intense. Other than that, though, the coaster collection doesn't really stand out too much. They don't have very many rides either, like there's a lot of room for expansion. And they only have one train for all the roller coasters, which is kind of frustrating. The operations here aren't the best, but the park is always dead, so that shouldn't hinder your experience too much. Fun little place, but not really anything special. Number 9 is Six Flags America in Upper Marlboro, Maryland. This is just an observation, but of all the Six Flags parks, this is the one that really gets a lot of hate from enthusiasts. And this is not a good thing, because this is a really decent park that, if they improved in a few ways, could become a great park. The coaster lineup that they already have is great. My favorite ride in the park is actually Joker's Jinx, a super intense launch coaster by Premier Rides. They have Batwing, which is one of the Vekoma flying coasters, and these are really fun and more intense than the B&M ones. They have Superman Ride of Steel, very odd but still fun Intamin Hypercoaster. And after that, there's a good lineup of rides that aren't anything special but are fun. You got Wild One, Great Classic Woody, Roar, one of the weaker GCIs but still a fun ride, Firebird, which is an alright B&M floorless coaster, and the lineup goes deep. My issue with Six Flags America is that this feels like an abandoned amusement park. Like, you just walk around the place, the park feels dead. Now, this means that there are no lines, it never gets busy here, but it could just use a bit of touching up. It could look nicer, and they could use some new rides that aren't hand-me-downs. Put in maybe an RMC Raptor here. You could do what they did with Roar at Discovery Kingdom and RMC that. And you'd have a great park if you just made a few improvements to the landscaping, the park appearance, and added a few more rides. But for now, Six Flags America is just good. Number 8 is Six Flags St. Louis. This is probably the most average park I've ever been to, which is not a bad thing because it means I don't really have any complaints about this place. Their coaster lineup is really solid. American Thunder is a great GCI. That's my favorite roller coaster here. And they have a Batman clone. Batman clones get a lot of hate because they're clones, but they're awesome, and there's a reason that they're everywhere. And this one is no exception. Mr. Freeze, great launch coaster from Premier Rides, incredibly intense. And then the rest of the coasters here are solid. Ninja sucks. That's terrible. That's one of the worst roller coasters ever. And Boss is not good. But if we're talking about the other major rides, like Screaming Eagle, it's a decent wooden roller coaster. Not much airtime, but it's fun. They have Excalibur, which is a really cool flat ride, too. And the park, it's not pretty by any means, but it looks pretty decent. And this is another one of those parks that's almost never busy, so you'll be able to get on all the rides you want here. Nice little place to spend a day or so at. Not as good as some of the other parks in Missouri, but still a good park. Number 7 is one of the 2 Six Flags parks in California, Six Flags Discovery Kingdom, and this is up in Northern California in Vallejo. This is one of the more interesting Six Flags parks in that this one doubles as an animal park. You have the front half of the park, which is more where your rides and stuff are, and you have the back half of the park, which is like kind of a zoo. There's a lot of aquariums and stuff, and it's cool. That pushes this park up into the list a little bit. They have Medusa, which is a good B&M floorless coaster. That's the best ride here. Joker is the weakest of the RMCs, but it's still a good ride. It's an RMC. You'll get some good airtime on that. They have Vertical Velocity, unique impulse coaster. Most of them have the spikes where they're like one up and the other, they're both vertical spikes, whereas Vertical Velocity has an inline twist for the spike, so that's cool. And they have Ultimate Flight, which is Skyrocket 2. Those are fun as always. And they've just got a lot of coasters here. There should be a coaster here to satisfy the interests of everyone. Only problem with this park really is the operations aren't so great, but they make up for that with the coaster lineup and the uniqueness with the animal half of the park. So this is somewhere you should definitely visit. Ooh boy, I'm gonna make no friends here. Number 6 is Six Flags Magic Mountain in Valencia, California, which is in Southern California. This is a park that if you love roller coasters and the only thing you care about is roller coasters, this is going to be your favorite Six Flags park. They have more roller coasters than any other park in the world, with 19, and the lineup is really good to add to that. X2 and Twisted Colossus are 2 of the best roller coasters in America, and the lineup goes deep. You got Batman Clone, again, great B&M inverts. You have Full Throttle, which is a weird launch coaster that's really short, but it's still a ton of fun. Goliath gets a lot of hate as a hypercoaster, but it's a good ride still. It's got a really powerful helix and 1 moment of floater airtime. Best stand-up coaster out there is Riddler's Revenge. Scream, great floorless coaster. Tatsu, great flying coaster. Apocalypse, alright GCI. They got a Schwarzkopf looper. They got a 400-foot tall spike coaster. They got a good aero looper. Like, this park has everything. There's a roller coaster for everybody here. So, why is it only at number 6? Well, if you remember what I mentioned in the intro to this video, that I tend to prefer full experiences with parks rather than parks that just completely focus on coasters, I was talking about this placement. Roller coasters are what Six Flags Magic Mountain does really well. It's the only thing this park does well. It's not a very pretty park at all. And again, this is kind of a recurring theme with a lot of the Six Flags parks in the back half of this list, but the operations here just aren't that good. It takes a while to dispatch trains. When you get a park that gets as busy as Six Flags Magic Mountain, that can be a bit of a problem. Also, a lot of times rides will be closed on your visit, and it's just, all in all, it's a great park, obviously, because of the roller coaster lineup. Just if it had more balance overall, it would be a better park. And the top 5 Six Flags parks are really well-balanced parks that do just about everything well. So that's why Six Flags Magic Mountain doesn't crack the top 5. But should you go here? Absolutely. This is like a park you should make a pilgrimage out to if you're a coaster enthusiast, just for the coaster lineup alone. Number 5 is Six Flags New England in Agawam, Massachusetts. Man, talk about underrated. Let's start as always with the coaster collection. This is not the deepest lineup ever, but the top 2. Superman the Ride and Wicked Cyclone. Superman the Ride, incredible hypercoaster. One of the best roller coasters ever. It goes on forever. It's got crazy ejector airtime. It's even got some floater airtime, and it's intense as hell. I don't mind the restraints because the ride is just that good. Wicked Cyclone, one of the best RMCs out there. It is relentless the entire time and is trying to fling you from the train, and it just does not stop. And then it's getting removed, but I actually really liked Goliath. Only Giant Inverted Boomerang I've done, but I thought it was fun. It's a bit shaky, but it's not unbearably rough. And Batman the Dark Knight was fun, decent floorless coaster. What this park has more than the roller coaster lineup. This is the oldest Six Flags park by how long it's existed. It opened as Riverside Park, like in the early 1900s, I think. And it still retains some of that charm. It's got a really nice location on the Connecticut River, and it's just pretty. It's really well landscaped. The operations here are really fast as well, and it's just such a nice park. Give it a few more like great roller coasters, and you've got a pretty much perfect park in my books. And already that top two, I mean, seriously, Superman and Wicked Cyclone make this a park that should be mandatory for every coaster enthusiast to visit. Number 4 is Six Flags Over Georgia. This has to have one of the deepest, most impressive coaster collections out of any park in the world, and it doesn't get enough credit for it. The top two here is fantastic. Twisted Cyclone is a great RMC that, while short, provides some sweet ejector airtime, both vertical ejector airtime and sideways ejector airtime. Goliath is my favorite B&M hyper. It doesn't just focus on the floater airtime, there's a few ejector moments in there and a really powerful downward helix. And then the other roller coasters are great too. Batman Clone runs really fast here, a lot faster than most of them. Georgia Scorcher is a crazy intense stand-up coaster that's smooth as glass. Mindbender, one of the best Schwarzkopf loopers out there, super intense. And then besides that, there's also some good stuff. I love Great American Scream Machine, one of my favorite classic wooden roller coasters. It still runs decently smooth. It's a bit rough, but nothing unbearable. It's got some awesome airtime. Blue Hawk is a good looping coaster. Daredevil Dive is one of the weaker Euro fighters, but it's still fun. And there's just a coaster again for everyone here. It's impossible not to have a good time at this park. It's very pretty. There's trees everywhere, and this is just somewhere that I think doesn't get enough credit for being the awesome park that it is, and it's one of the best in the Six Flags chain easily. Back in the top 3 is Six Flags Great Adventure in Jackson, New Jersey. This is a park that's really gotten a lot of hate from enthusiasts in recent years, and man, I don't know why, this place is awesome. A lot of people say the coaster collection isn't that special outside of El Toro, but I strongly disagree with that. Nitro is one of the best B&M hypercoasters out there. Canobie is really short, but it's awesome, crazy launch, and it's the tallest roller coaster in the world. Like, come on. Then you have Bizarro, which is an awesome floorless coaster, another Batman clone, but these things are always awesome. Green Lantern, a fun stand-up coaster. Don't get the hate for that ride at all. It's not even rough. And okay, ignoring that, even if the lineup here wasn't very deep, they have El Toro. The greatest roller coaster on the planet, in my opinion. It is incredible. The ejector airtime you get on this ride is scary, and the sound it makes going over those hills, from the wheels lifting off the track and the upstop wheels being the only thing that's holding it on. And since my last visit, they got Jersey Devil, which, while it looks like one of the weaker RMCs, it's an RMC. It'll be a great ride. Nothing wrong with the coaster lineup here at all. They got a pretty good flat ride lineup too, with Zumanjaro being the star of the show. It's the tallest drop tower in the world. And then the park, people say this place is ugly, which in some areas, yeah, but I don't think it is. And there's even some decent theming, like over by Canobie. The park's also got a safari, which makes it the largest amusement park in the world by area. And this is another place that it's just impossible not to have a good time at. And El Toro alone pushes this park towards the top of the list. That thing is unreal. Another thing to add as well about Six Flags Great Adventure is that this has had the best operations out of any Six Flags park. They're consistently dispatching trains in a minute or less on all of the major roller coasters. I especially want to give a hats off to the crews at Nitro for just dispatching trains really, really quickly. In a chain where a lot of the theme parks are kind of slow with their operations, it's really great to see how fast the crews at Six Flags Great Adventure are, and it really will make your experience at the park that much better than it already is. Number 2 is Six Flags Fiesta Texas. What pushes this thing right up almost to the top spot is the park appearance. This isn't just the prettiest Six Flags park by far, this is one of the prettiest amusement parks out there. It's super charming, the architecture is great, and I mean it's built right behind that quarry wall. And not only is that quarry wall there to give you a good look at the park, it doesn't just give the park a good aesthetic, a lot of the rides interact with it and are better as a result. Iron Rattler is a really good example of that, and some of the best moments of the ride involve the quarry wall, such as that dive into the tunnel. And talk about Iron Rattler, great RMC. Superman Krypton Coaster is one of the best floorless coasters out there, and it's got a really unique layout, again, as a result of that quarry wall. They have Poltergeist, which is a wicked Premier Rise launch coaster. It's a clone of Joker's Jinx, runs just as awesome as that. And they got a Batman clone, which, as always, those are good rides. This is one of the more different feeling Six Flags parks. And I mean that as a compliment, because a lot of the Six Flags parks, it's like you go to one and you've been to all of them, like they can kind of blend together. And Fiesta Texas provides something different that a lot of the other Six Flags parks don't. Only reason this isn't number one is the operations aren't as fast as the number one park, and there isn't as much rides here or as much depth as the number one park. But this is still a great park. Oh, and since my last visit, they got Wonder Woman Golden Lasso coaster, which looks phenomenal. Looks like one of the craziest roller coasters ever. So I got that to look forward to as well. Coming in at number one, my favorite Six Flags park is Six Flags Great America. I haven't been here in forever, and this park back then was the best Six Flags park, and so now it would definitely be the best Six Flags park. It probably wouldn't be very close as Fiesta Texas now. This park has an amazing lineup of roller coasters. Raging Bull does not get enough credit. It's an awesome B&M hyper. First drop on that thing in the back will just eject you from the train. It's got some trim brakes, which are kind of annoying, but whatever. Great ride. Viper, amazing wooden roller coaster, crazy airtime. They got Batman, they got an impulse coaster, they got a giant racing wooden coaster, they got a pretty smooth aero looper. Again, like a lot of the parks that are in this top five, there's a coaster at Six Flags Great America for everybody. They got some good flat rides too. They got a frisbee, they got a giant drop tower. The park is nice looking, like the area around Whizzer, especially, like, and that big carousel out front. It's just a cool park. And then since I visited, they've added Goliath, which looks like a great RMC, and they've added Max Force. So probably the two best coasters in this park did not exist when I was here, and this is my favorite Six Flags park. So yeah, Six Flags Great America is taking the top spot for me. It is the crown jewel of this chain, in my opinion, and I look forward to returning. So that covers my rather controversial list of the Six Flags parks. Remember, this is completely subjective, and parks are very difficult to rank because everyone will have different experiences and have different preferences. So if I go back to some of these, this could completely change. I'm looking forward to getting back to Six Flags Over Texas and having a better experience there, and Six Flags Great America to experience the rides I haven't been on yet because I haven't been there in a while. But still, this is a really good chain, and there's a lot of good parks, and I don't really like it when coaster enthusiasts kind of like crap on Six Flags for being cheap or adding clones. Yeah, they don't add the massive coasters that Cedar Fair parks do, but at least they add coasters to their parks, usually, where Cedar Fair really likes to just neglect half their chain. So, yeah, Six Flags, if you have a Six Flags park near you, you should go visit it. And if you get the chance to visit a lot of these parks, I'd definitely recommend it. So that was the video, and I'll see you in the next one.